Welcome, this is your 5-minute geography lesson. We're covering Theme 6, Element 3, Tourism. Equipment out, I'm Mr. S and I'll be your 5-minute teacher. Tourism was once an industry that only benefited the wealthier countries. It started in the 1960s when flights became a lot cheaper and people started to get a bit more disposable income. But today, it's now a huge sector for both LICs and newly emerging economies. So for example, in 1995, Asia had around 80 million tourists visiting. But by 2014, that has skyrocketed to over 260 million tourists. So that's a lot more money coming into Asian economies. So there's a number of reasons why this growth has happened, and these improvements in technology and life expectancy are one of the main things. But let's have a look at those in a bit more detail. So mass tourism is where we have a lot of people moving to one specific area for holidays. The holidays are usually associated with package holidays, which is where you get your flights, your meals and your hotel all included. But why mass tourism took off has got a lot to do with improvements in transport technology. So we've got the ability now to travel further in a shorter space of time. So where once, if you wanted to visit Australia back in the 60s, it would have taken you about 3 weeks on a boat. Whereas now, in the last 2 years, you can now get a plane with either one stop, it'll take you around a day, or you can now take a flight that goes direct from Heathrow to Sydney, and it takes around about 18 to 20 hours. So the advancements in technology means that it's now cheaper and more accessible to take flights. Holiday companies from the 60s onwards made the process a lot easier as well. So they took all the hassle out of booking a holiday because they were the experts. You went, you told them where you wanted to go and what your price range was, and they would book the flights, the hotel and your itinerary. Travel companies are not as popular today, although they are still around, but increased access to the internet today is probably one of the main drivers of tourism. So it allows you to go and visit that location without actually leaving your sitting room. It means that you can look at where you want to go, what hotel would be the best and what would be the cheapest, and then make your own informed decision. Effectively, you become your own travel agent, booking everything independently. And then we've also got, in the richer countries and HICs, people are retiring earlier, people are living longer, which means that they can then spend more of their time going on holiday as well in their silver years. And with most HICs and NICs, we're starting to develop more disposable income. So that's money that you don't need for household bills. So money that you can spend freely. And that means that people may want to travel more, go abroad, because they've got the money to do it. Now, these concepts of a package holiday, the word we'd use for that is called enclave tourism. So an enclave is like a boarded off or a partitioned off area. So they might also be called, or you might know them as compound hotels, which is where you have a hotel but it's in a gated community. So there's a wall around you separating you from the rest of the area that you've went to. So if you were going to the Bahamas, your hotel might be near the beach, and they've got a big fence running right the way around the hotel and a bit of the beach. And the idea is that really you're probably only going to stay in the hotel. Now, what's happening there is you're getting your hotel, your meals and your accommodation all paid for. So why would you want to leave the compound? And this is one of the main issues of mass tourism. Because what's actually happening is all that money that you're spending is only going to the hotel. And that hotel is probably owned by a big MNC, multinational corporation, that has its headquarters probably back in the USA or somewhere like that. So all of that money, all that profit, isn't benefiting the local area. So if we keep with the Bahamas, the money's not going to the people, to the government of the Bahamas in tax. It's not going to the local economy. It's going back to the USA. So in other types of tourism, you might go and go to a hotel that you've booked, and it might be an independent hotel that's owned by local people. You might go to a local restaurant. You might go and do some shopping in one of the local malls, and that's benefiting that local economy because you're putting money back into the system, the economy of the area, but also that's then encouraging more shops and more employees that creates more jobs. So it's all benefiting the local people of the area, which Unclear Tourism doesn't do. So the key problem is that less money goes to the local economy, and the same happens on cruise ships. So Unclear Tourism and cruise ships are effectively the same process, because when you're on a cruise ship, there is effectively nowhere else to go. You're in the middle of the sea. So you've got to go to the restaurants that are on the ship, you've got to pay for your alcohol on the ship, and then you may spend maybe half a day in a location, but because your meals are all free on the ship because you've already paid for them, then you're not really going to spend much in these locations either. So as a result, MNCs receive large amounts of profit and it does not benefit the local area. So let's have a look at what the benefits and the negatives of tourism in general are. Well, it does create jobs. So even in enclave tourism, you're going to still have people that need to work in the hotel, but it's a reduced benefit really, isn't it? It's not benefiting the entire economy of the area. But it does create jobs, and creating jobs is something called a positive multiplier effect. So if tourism is bringing more jobs to the area, then that means that it's being profitable. So more shops, more businesses are going to set up there as well, which creates more jobs. And then as the area becomes more popular, it draws more tourists in, which brings more money in. It's going to bring increased taxes for the government as well, which the government can then spend on things like healthcare, infrastructure, education. And then it also benefits the local supporting infrastructure. So rail networks, roads, buses, all have to be improved to benefit for the increased tourism, but it comes from the increased taxes as well. But there are negatives to tourism. So particularly mass tourism that sees lots of people going to one location, it often means that the local culture and the environment are destroyed. So it's catering for, if we're in Asia, Western tourists, which means that we're trying to entice Western tourists into the area, which may start to whitewash, erode the culture, the local culture. And as more people come in, it means that it might start to damage the environment if you're in quite a rural area, and cause more pollution with the more traffic, more planes, and so on. Jobs are often seasonal. So in the Northern Hemisphere, a lot of holidays are taken in the summer, and therefore in the winter, when less people go on holiday, there's not many jobs available. And then, as we've already spoken about, a lot of profits are sent back to HICs and that don't benefit the LICs. Well, that completes our look at tourism. Don't let your revision take a holiday by completing the Now Try It tasks. Class dismissed.